What will lawmakers do now after the Florida massacre? Let's discuss with two former U.S. representatives from the Republican Party. We have David Jolly and CNN political commentator Jack Kingston. It's great to have both of you. You're both Republicans, and now you can speak freely because you are out of Congress. Jack, I want to start with something that you tweeted because I don't understand it. So let me read to everyone what you tweeted on Sunday night about this. You said, "Oh, really? Students are planning a nationwide rally, not left-wing gun control activists using 17-year-old kids in the wake of a horrible tragedy. Hashtag Soros, hashtag resistance, hashtag Antifa, hashtag DNC." Do you think that, Jack? You think? You're serious?
Allison,
you think these kids aren't acting on their own volition?
Allison, I think it's a horrible tragedy, and I'm heartbroken that young people have gone through this, and I hope that it never happens again. But I also know that their sorrow can very easily be hijacked by left-wing groups
But do you think
who
it has
have an
been?
agenda. Well, let's ask ourselves, do we really think that, and I say this sincerely, do we really think 17-year-olds on their own are going to plan a nationwide rally?
Jack?
I would say to you very plainly that organized groups that are out there, like George Soros, are always ready to take the charge, and it's kind of like instant rally, instant protest, and
Hey,
those
Jack,
groups are ready to take it,
Jack,
take it to
I'm
the
sorry.
streets.
I have to correct you. I was down there. I talked to these kids. These kids were what, Jack? These kids were wildly motivated. I talked to these kids before they knew the body count of how many of their friends had been killed. No, Jack, no one had talked to them yet. They hadn't been indoctrinated by some left-wing group. They were motivated from what they saw and what they endured during that ordeal.
I don't doubt their sincerity.
Yes, you do, Jack.
I absolutely know these children are heartbroken, but I also know they probably do not have the logistical ability to plan a nationwide rally without it being hijacked by groups that already had the pre-existing anti-gun agenda.
Jack, it's just silly. They're already doing it. They're on buses going to the state legislature today.
And
they're 17 years old. They can figure this out. But
they have the money for the bus, and they're ready to go. I mean, I just have a hard time believing it.
David,
come on.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, Jack, you're a friend. Who cares who's paying for the gasoline for them to get their voice to legislators? Who cares? No, listen. The message they're getting out is not a left-wing confiscation. They are not getting out a left-wing confiscation message. They are suggesting that, yes, there can be a constitutional right, but not beyond the reach of reasonable regulation. Jack, listen.
Hold on. Jack, let David talk. Hold on, Jack. Let David. Go ahead, David. Make your point.
Here's the point. Here's what the American people are crying out for leadership on. They want universal and comprehensive background checks. They want it to be as difficult to get an assault weapon as it is to get a security clearance in this White House. And they want to see dramatic enforcement of the laws on the books. You don't get to choose which one of those three will stop gun violence. It's going to take all of them.
Let's put on Hollywood gratuitous violence and bloodshed, which these kids have been inundated with all their life. Let's put on mental health, which if you look at the background of most of these people who have perpetrated this, there have been all kinds of red flags. In this case, 36 house calls to the house by the local police.
Yes, and
2
he could
tips
still
to the FBI, and they
buy a
ignored
gun,
it. And
Jack.
by the way,
he could still legally buy a gun.
An AR-15.
Why not deal with that?
And well, let me give you a statistic that's going to challenge you. But from 1991 to 2014, 160 million guns were purchased by Americans. Now, that's an appalling figure for many people, 160 million guns.
Yep, got it.
And during that period of time, violent crime in America went down 52%, and the murder rate went down 54%.
Jack, let me ask you this. I hear your statistics.
That's an important statistic for those who...
Why, when it comes to gun violence, do you want to talk about everything except guns?
I'm willing to talk about guns, but I also want to have facts. When people say an AR-15 is an assault rifle, which it isn't, when one of the students...
Hold on. What do you mean? Why are you protecting the AR-15? And how do you define that?
Assault rifle is where you pull the trigger and you have multiple rounds.
No, that's an automatic weapon. That's an automatic weapon. An assault, what people call an assault rifle is that it's a weapon of war. Soldiers
let's talk about it. Let's talk about it as a weapon of war. David, do you dare hunt?
David, are you a hunter?
No.
Okay. Well, if you deer
I come
hunted,
from a family of hunters. I respect hunting.
Listen, well, let me say this.
Here's the issue.
I deer hunt. The caliber of an AR-15 isn't heavy enough for a deer. You use a 25.
But it is to kill 17 people in Florida, Jack. It is to kill 17 young people in Florida.
Listen, Jack, this is a horrible tragedy. I'm all on board. I don't have any fear putting the gun discussion on the table. I don't have a fear of that.
You seem to be diverting from it. You don't like
no.
it.
Well, how do you
make this
account for
about
that
policy for a
statistic?
moment.
Okay, let's talk about that statistic that I just said. The fact that gun purchases went to an all-time high and crime went down.
Let's talk
Tell me how they square up.
I'll tell you right now, Jack. Let's talk about mass shootings. You know that we have more of them in this country than any other civilized country. That's what happens. School shootings with these AR-15s. That's their gun of choice.
You've had them in Belgium. You've had them in France. You've had them in other.
Here's the thing.
Wait a minute, Allison.
Jack,
you can't. Every time I say a stat, you can't say, "Oh, come on, Jack."
Because you know that when they changed, they had a massive mass shooting in Australia, and when they changed the nationwide gun laws, they haven't had one since. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, look, let's bring this home. Jack, I respect the statistics. I respect the ideological conviction for what it is. Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. You give that speech. No, listen. Jack, listen.
Address the statistics for a second. Go ahead, David.
No, I want to ask you to address something. I want you to give that speech to the families that survived Parkland. If you can give that speech, then that says it comes from conviction,
David,
not influence. And here's what we need to talk about. When you say health care, when you say school safety, what Republicans are refusing to talk about is the intersection of health care with gun purchases. It's not enough to say we need better mental health. We need to say, what is the intersection of mental health and gun purchases?
You know what, David?
What is the intersection of school safety and guns? You don't get to just talk about the first two and not the last one.
That's absolutely wrong. NRA, the terrorist group, as we're hearing, not just from these students, and you know what, Allison? I give that student who's upset the right to say that.
Thank you.
It's irresponsible for an adult to say it, but if NRA has spent thousands of dollars on gun safety and gun training. My children have gone through Eddie Eagle. And by the way, I'm not a member of the NRA.
Why not, if you like it so much?
Because I believe in I believe in the Second Amendment, but they have absolutely, positively promoted the intersection that David's talking about of gun purchasing and mental health. And by the way,
you've been on the House floor for those votes, Jack. Absolutely
David,
not. Why has Congress not voted on this issue? It's because the NRA has coordinated with Republican leadership in Congress to not allow a gun vote. You know that.
They just had one in December. What are you talking about? It was Richard Hudson just passed a bill in December 2017. How can you say they haven't had a
national
gun
right to carry
vote?
reciprocity to expand gun rights? They have not had a debate or a vote over gun control.
Hold on, you're speaking over each other.
It fixed background checks, and it is the bipartisan bill that Pat Murphy, who is a very, very pro-gun control senator, and John Cornyn, who is a Second Amendment senator, are taken up in the Senate.
So, Jack, I mean, just one second.
To dismiss that is ridiculous.
Listen, after Las Vegas, after the hideous carnage there, it seemed that the simplest thing in the world would be to ban bump stocks from being purchased on the internet. We didn't even know what bump stocks were. They turned your semi-automatic into an automatic for even more carnage. And they couldn't do it, Jack,
It was in the Hudson bill in December.
They couldn't do it. They couldn't ban it.
The Hudson
now they're
bill
taking it up because of this.
In December, the Hudson bill addressed bump stocks.
And?
It is in front of the U.S. Senate right now.
Why haven't they voted on it?
I'm not a U.S. senator. Listen, one thing David and I would always agree with you on, Allison, is that the U.S. Senate can drive you crazy as a House member. But let me say this. I absolutely respect the right to put gun under scrutiny. For example, you can't buy a handgun if you're under 21, but you can buy a rifle. You know what? Put that on the table, and let's put mental health on the table, and let's also talk about cultural changes.
Okay.
For example, let me raise the hair on somebody's head right now. I heard a thoughtful discussion about school prayer and morality back in the public discussion, and nobody from the left is going to, school prayer, that's hardly a part of the problem. But you know what? What if it is?
Well, Jack, I hear you. Listen, okay, I got it. You want the whole thing on the table. That's great. But as you know, what these kids have said, that the time for hope and prayer is over. The hopes and prayers from people have only gone so far, and 17 of their loved ones are dead. David, you know Mitch McConnell. You know Paul Ryan. Is this going to be different? Will they change anything as a result of what happened in Parkland?
We're going to see very quickly. You know, in South Carolina, after the Charleston shooting, the political leadership on both sides seized the issue of the Confederate flag. It wasn't gun control, but, you know, there had been this debate over the Confederate flag. And finally, because of the wretchedness of that shooting, they seized the momentum very quickly, within a month. It is up to the leadership of McConnell and Ryan and Donald Trump. If they want to do something, they need to do it now, because otherwise in Washington, if they delay even a couple months, the NRA will slow roll this, and they will do so with a very powerful constituency of voters, not just money.
I just want to point out that after Sandy Hook, when Barack Obama was president, the U.S. Senate was controlled by Democrats. The Second Amendment discussion is very difficult, and there are many who want to go to a full-fledged let's ban guns. National instant
Nobody's
background
talking about
check.
that, Jack. Nobody's talking about that. People are talking about common sense reforms. Nobody is talking about banning guns
Allison,
today.
let
Jack,
me say
sorry.
this as somebody
Your
who's been in this debate.
Whenever
the byword on the left is always common sense gun control, and it usually means restriction of the Second Amendment. What I am saying to you, if you want to put it on the table, you also have to tell me why, when gun purchases went up, did the crime rate go down?
And why school shootings and mass shootings went up.
Neither of you have
got it. Hey,
to a gun-free zone.
David,
to a gun-free zone. That's where these mentally disturbed people always attack soft targets.
Jack, David, thank you.